All right, we'll say good morning. It's been a lot to do today. Today's daf is Tes Zayin 16. We are picking up on Tes Vav Amud Beis Va'od Sanya, which is 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 21 lines up from the bottom. Okay, got a lot to do. Also, our share this week is sponsored by Ayala and Sarah Steinberg as a schus for Refuah Shlema for Shulamis Bas Susha. We hope that in the marathon our Talmud Torah, she will have a complete and enduring refuah together with Kol Cholei Yisrael. So let's begin. So remember again, just to reorient ourselves a bit, we are picking up where we left off with this idea that Rabbi went ahead and sold a donkey to Yisrael who was chashud, who was suspect of selling stuff to Ovdei Kochavim, of selling behemoths gas to Ovdei Kochavim. So we'll say, remember again, so Rabbi said, well, again, why should it be problematic? At the end of the day, he doesn't only sell to of the Avodah Zara. He would also sell to Jews as well. If a Jew were to show up, and if a Jew were to go ahead and offer him the same price, he also would show up. So we'll say, so now the Gemara is trying to prove that at the end of the day, such a practice actually would be illegal. So va'od sanya. So also remember now, we're talking about the chilik between Ovdei Kochavim and Kusim. Va'od tanya. So I'll say we'll discuss this later on, that you will see that one is not permitted to sell weapons, nor is one permitted to sell handles to weapons to an akum, to an idolater. You can't sharpen their weapons for them. You can't sell them any kind of handcuffs or chains or neck collars. Again, anything that Chas Shalom could ever be used ultimately to oppress the Jewish people. Echad Ovdei Kochavim ve'echad Kusi. You can't sell this to an Ovdei Kochavim, nor can you sell it to a Kusi. My time. They both say, now why can't you sell it to the Kusim? If you want to say it's because the Kusi is suspect to go ahead and shed blood, that a Kusi is suspect to kill people. Are Kusim actually chashid? Are Kusim suspect? Suspect to kill someone. We just said before that what? That you could have yichud. In other words, that a person could be alone with a kusi, which means that a kusi is not suspect to go in and shed blood. Rather, again, what's the issue? The issue is the concern that the kusi may come to sell it to an akum. So the Gemara says, kusi lo avid shuva. So the Gemara says, so what do you see from here? You see from here that you can't sell these items to a kusi lest he come to sell it to an Ovid Kochavim. What does that show me? That shows me that if I know that there's a possibility that someone's going to sell an object to an akum, I can't sell it to that person to begin with, which means that the business practices of Rabbi Bar Chana, of Rabba, were prohibited because Rabba was selling it to a Jew who was a broker who was known to sell to an akum. We see from here that such a practice is illegal. Well, maybe you'll say, well, here's the difference, that even if the akum, even if the Yisrael right now goes ahead and what? Even if the Yisrael does go ahead and sell to the akum, at the end of the day, maybe he'll do tshuva and he'll stop doing it. Masheke and the kusi won't do tshuva, to which the Gemara says, so we'll say, so bottom line, the Gemara says, we have an explicit statement of Rabbi Bar Abuah. And Rabbi Bar Abuah said the same way that you can't sell these prohibited items, in this case the weaponry, to an Oved Kochavim directly. You also can't sell it to a Yisrael who is chashid, who is suspect, to sell it to an Oved Kochavim as well. So we'll say, bottom line, we see that halacha l'maisa, not only is the prohibition to sell prohibited items to an akum, but you also can't sell it to a Jew who is known to sell it to an akum as well. Roit basrei tlasa parsi. So we'll say, Rabba, realizing that he did something wrong by selling the behema gasa to a Jew who is known to sell to an akum, ran after the Jew 3 parsos. Some say it was 1 parsa, but it was sand, which made it much more difficult to run. So we'll say the idea is Rabba runs after to try to buy the animal back. But unfortunately, again, he was unable to catch up with the broker. He wasn't able to catch up with the individual to whom he sold it, and therefore was unable to retrieve the animal. I will say an incredible musr in this as well. Sometimes in life you can reverse your mistakes. Sometimes in life you could fix your mistakes. And sometimes no matter how hard you try, the damage is done and cannot be undone. Fortunate reality of life. So Rabbi ultimately again understood that he made a mistake, tried to reverse it, but at the end of the day was unable to. Amar Abdi Bar Abba. Kidech Asar Limkar La'ovei Kochavim, Asar Limkar La'listim Yisrael. So the same way that you can't sell weaponry to an Oved Kochavim, you also can't sell weaponry to a Jewish thief. Listim. Listim also doesn't just mean a thief. Listim really means like an armed robber. So the Gemara says, Hechi Dami, or what's the case? If we're talking about a person chas shalom who kills, right? He's chashid, he's suspect to shed blood. So pshita, hainu avi kochavim. Well, say obviously you can't sell anyone weaponry if they're known to kill. So if you're talking about a Jewish killer, of course you can't sell him weaponry. He's no different than an akum. To which the Gemara says, now if he doesn't kill, in other words, if he's not suspect to commit murder, then why can't you sell it to him? To which the Gemara says, the reality is he's not known to be a murderer, but mashmuta is a thief. And what happens? He's a thief ultimately again who tries to steal secretly, right? But if he's found out and he's running for his life, he will defend himself by any means necessary. So because of that, although he's not quote unquote a murderer, he is someone ultimately who has the capacity to commit murder, and therefore you can't go ahead and sell him weaponry. Tan Rabbanim, a mochel and trisim. This is actually interesting. You can't sell Ovdei Kochavim a shield. You can't sell them a shield. Others say you can sell a shield. My time, I suppose, say now we're going to explore the reasoning behind each of the approaches. So I'll say if you want to say you can't sell the Akam a shield, why? Because he uses it to protect himself. If that's the case, you shouldn't sell them wheat, right? Don't sell them food either, because wheat builds up, right? Their sustenance builds up their strength, and they can protect themselves with that as well. To which the Rav says, "Most top of test zayin ef shar." So we'll say ef shar means Rashi says below eva. It is not possible not to sell the Ovdei Kochavim wheat. As we'll say that's not a possibility. What do I mean by that? Meaning, we're going to discuss this whole Torah called Mishum Eva. These things are both said that we have to do in order not to incur the animosity of the Gentile population that we live with. To not sell Ovdei Kochavim grain, I will say, even though halachically it may be a good idea so as not to sustain their endeavors against the Jewish people, but we can't do it. Ultimately, it will cause too much animosity. Hachanami. Maybe it's the same thing over here, that you can't refrain from selling them shields, because that'll also go ahead and provoke animosity. Ikudamri, others say, Trisin Hainu Taima. What's the reason ultimately again that you can't sell them shields? Because when they're in battle and their weapons are no longer useful for whatever the reason, right, either because they've been blunted or ultimately again they've been taken or they've been lost. So katli begavayu, they use their shields to kill as well. Therefore, I will say the shield is not just simply a utensil of protection, but it's a utensil of bloodshed as well. And as such, again, you can't sell it to them. We'll say third line down, Tazayim Amud Aleph. Others say, Mochalem Trisin, you can sell shields. Why? Because ultimately, again, for the Akum, when they're out in battle and they no longer have their weapons, they run. They don't use their shields to kill, they just use their shields to protect them as they are fleeing from the battle. Rav Nachman Amra Baravua. Halacha Kishomrim. We'll say so. Rav Nachman said in Baravua, the halacha is like the Yishomrim, and therefore again one is permitted to go ahead and sell shields to the Akum. Amra Vada Barava, a mocher lahem ashashios shal barzel. This is actually very interesting. So Rav Baravua said, Rav Ada Barava said, you can't sell to the Akum ashashios. Rashi says second wide line from the top in Rashi, chatichos avos. You can't sell to the Akum large blocks of steel. Large blocks in my time, what's the reason? Mishum dechol sheminayu klei zayin. Because they make weapons from the block of steel. Therefore, the same way that you can't sell them weaponry, you also can't sell them the material to create weaponry. Ihachi afilu mari vechatzini. I'll say this is interesting. If that's the case, then you shouldn't be able to sell them a shovel or a hoe. In other words, you can take any metal utensil and ultimately, again, create it into a weapon. If that's the case, the same way you can't sell them a block of metal, you also shouldn't be able to sell them farming utensils, lest they go ahead and make that into weaponry as well. So, Amarav Zvid beparzala hindua. So, we'll say, Rav Zvid said that the idea over here is they dafka only make weapon, apparently from Indian metal. Indian metal. That was the type of metal. So we'll say stam metal used to go ahead and make farming utensils. They would not make weaponry out of that. It's talking about you can't sell them a block of Indian metal because that dafka was used to go ahead and make weapons. The Gemara says, but 1 second, we see that Jews do sell to the Akum Indian metal. Ravashi leparsoi de magnu iluyan. The boss is amazing. We only sell to the Persians. Why do we sell to the Persians? Because it's the Persians who protect us. Right? Ultimately, again, we're living under Persian rule. The Persian army, the Persian empire protects us, and as such, again, it's permitted for us to go ahead and sell weapons, sell metal to the Persian army with which to fashion weapons. Quite amazing. Says the Gemara, Agalim usyachim. So remember, again, the Mishnah spoke about selling, for examples of behema gasa, right? Agalim are calves, sayachim are young donkeys, foals, shleinim ushavurim, whether they are whole or whether they are broken. In other words, whether they're healthy or maimed. And Rabbi Huda said that you could sell a broken animal, a maimed animal. Tanya, Rabbi Huda matir b'shura. Rabbi Huda says that you could sell a shavar, a broken animal. Right, a broken animal. What's the reason? When I say broken, understand broken means maimed. So because also listen to this. Because remember, what's the whole issue with selling a behema gasa? What's the whole issue? So we established this yesterday. Inherently, is there anything wrong with selling a behema gasa to an akum? Is there anything wrong with that? The answer is no. What are we concerned with? That if you sell, you'll come to rent, or you'll come to lend, or nisyuni, and we're going to have problems with Shabbos. Rabbi Yehuda says if you're selling a behema that's shvura, pretty much the animal's going to die anyway. So because the animal's going to die, it's not going to really exist within the domain of the akum for too long, and therefore no one's going to make any assumptions about lending or borrowing based on the presence of that animal. So the Gemara says, "In yochol lisrapos v'lachios amrulo v'alomar v'in aleh v'yola." That's, but 1 second, I don't understand. That's why do you assume that's true? Even if that animal can't be used for work, that animal can be used for mating. To which the Gemara said, so we'll say, Rabbi Huda assumes that if you're purchasing a shavura animal, the only reason you're purchasing, I will say, is usually for the purposes of shchita, for the purposes of consumption. If you're purchasing it for shchita, you're generally not going to keep it around too long, and therefore there's no concern that someone may come to learn from the presence of that animal that you could rent or lend an animal to a Gentile. So the Gemara says, 1 second, even if it can't work, it can be used for mating, and if it's going to be used for mating, that animal is going to be maintained in the rishus of the akum for some prolonged amount of time. So it says to which Rabbi Yehuda said, well, you know what? Let's discuss that when the animal gives birth. What does that mean, Abosai? Rabbi Yehuda holds, said that when an animal is severely injured, because of the nature of its injury, generally it's unable to mate, right? Generally it's unable to withstand the pressure of mating. So because of that, such an animal will not be used for procreation, and therefore, again, there's only one thing it's going to be used for, which is what? Consumption. Because it's going to be used for consumption, ultimately, again, the animal will not be maintained for a prolonged period of time. Ben Beseira Matir Besus. Ben Beseira says you can go ahead and sell a sus, sell a horse. And I will say the reason for that ultimately is why? Because the sus, remember, according to Ben Beseira, is not a work animal. Rather, again, it's a riding animal, and riding an animal on Shabbos is a shavus, is not in and of itself prohibited, but rather, again, remember, you can't ride an animal on Shabbos because you may come to tear off the branch, and in order to whip the animal to move. So we'll say it's called the shavus. So Tanya Ben Beseira Matir Basus. Ben Beseira says you can go ahead and sell a horse to a akum because if used on Shabbos, but it's primarily used for riding, there's no malacha, there's no violation of malacha which would incur a chatas liability for the Jewish owner. The Rebbe says you can't sell the horse for 2 reasons. Echad mishum Torah's klizayin. I will say one because the horse can be used as a weapon. Ve'echad mishum Torah's behema gasa. And one because I will say the horse is treated like a behema gasa. Bishlama Torah's klizayin ika dekatl b'schufe. I understand why the horse could be considered a weapon of Osei, because sometimes horses were trained to trample with their hooves. The idea being that sometimes the horse itself was used to trample. So we'll say because that the horse could be considered like a weapon, and therefore it can't be sold to an akum. Ela Torah's behema gasa mahi. But we'll say, what does it mean when we say that the horse has the status of a behema gasa? Am Rabbi Yochanan lichishiyaskin matchina berechayim b'Shabbos, because Rabbi Yochanan says that sometimes horses, when they got older, I guess were decommissioned, from being used for riding or being used for war. Ultimately, again, would be used to work the mill. So we'll say, Rabbi Yochanan, halacha kimem b'seira. Rabbi Yochanan says that halacha falas ben b'seira. We'll say that one is permitted to go ahead and sell the horse to an akum. Ibaylahu. So now the Gemara asks another kasha. So we'll say the Gemara seems to end off by saying that the halacha indeed follows ben b'seira, that a horse is not considered to be like a behema gasa, since it is not primarily a work animal, and therefore can be sold to a Gentile, not to a Gentile, but to an akum. Says the Gemara, shor shel patam mahu. Well, so listen to this kasha. What about a shor shel patam? What is a shor shel patam? Look at Rashi. It's right across from where you see that Likutei Rashi there. It says shor shel patam shepitmo v'shamein ma'od ve'ino roi l'malachim. Well, say this is a fattened ox. So a fattened ox is an ox that was fattened, usually force-fed, in order that it should become very fat, usually to be used for consumption purposes. The idea being, it's not a work animal. So under normal circumstances, we said that a shor is what? That a shor is a behema gasa, and therefore one can't sell it to an akum. So we'll say, but what about the shor shel patam, which is again an animal being fattened up for consumption purposes that is not going to be worked? So tibai the Rabbi Huda, tibai the Rabbanon. We'll say this is a kasha both according to Rabbi Huda and according to the Rabbanon. How so? Tibai the Rabbi Huda, ad kan lo kosher Rabbi Huda ela b'shvura, de lo asi lechlal malacha. We'll say up until now Rabbi Huda only permitted us with the shvura, an animal which was quote unquote broken or maimed, because such an animal can't do malacha under any circumstances. We'll say first wide line tezayna madalef. Aval hai dechimashile asi lechlal malacha. But we'll say this animal, if the owner keeps it around, what could happen? You put on some kind of exercise regimen, and what could happen? It loses some weight, and it could once again become fit for labor. In other words, it is possible that it could once again be used for work again. However, and therefore maybe it's usher. Therefore, maybe even Rabbi Huda would hold that such an animal falls under the category of behema gasa, and therefore can't be sold to the akum. O dilma, afil l'rabbanon lo ka'asri, or maybe even according to Rabbanon, they would hold that such an animal could be sold. Why? Afil l'rabbanon lo ka'asri hasam el distame lav l'shchita koi. See, Rabbi say, under normal circumstances, the Rabbanon ultimately said that even in a shivura case, the reason why it's still governed under the prohibition ultimately of a behema gasa is because a stamen animal is not sold for shchita. We can't make the assumption that an animal is sold for shchita. Aval hai, the stami the shchita, Rabbi say, shor shel patam, the whole reason they fattened up the ox, Rabbi say, was why? Was in order to slaughter it and eat it, then afil the Rabbanon sharu. Maybe even the Rabbanon will say that you could sell a shor shel patam ultimately to the akum. So we'll say, so what's the halacha? To which the Gemara says, Tashma, Dam Rabbi Huda Shmuel, Shal Beis Rabbi Hayu Makrivin, Shor Shal Patam, Biyom Idam. So I said, this is actually an interesting Gemara. So Shmuel says the following. In the house of Rabbi Huda Hanasi, Rabbi say the way this literally translates is, they would go ahead and offer up a fattened ox on the day of the Yom Tov of the Akum, the day of the idolatrous Yom Tov. Now what does that mean? Look at Rashi. Rashi says, Makrivin, Mas V'daran Lamelech. So the house of Rebbe, everybody had to pay a tax. Even the house of Rebbe. So what was the tax? The tax was that on the Yom Tov of the Akum, you had to give them a fattened ox. Now, presumably, what were they doing with the fattened ox? They were shechting it for their deity, or they were going to eat it in celebration of their Yom Tov. So what happens, Rabbi say? So chaser daled rivvan she'in makrivin osayom. So the house of Rebbe, they used to bribe the officials 40,000 coins, that they shouldn't offer the animal on that day. We'll give you the animal, but do me a favor, don't slaughter it on your Yom Tov. Slaughter it tomorrow. Here's $40,000. Slaughter it tomorrow. Fine. Chasr dal riban. Both say the next year they paid another 40,000. Shein makriven oson chai ela shachut. Do me a favor, don't offer it up living, or don't slaughter it for the purpose of, rather kill it first, and then go ahead and offer up the meat after. So we'll say what that means is that this was just another step removed. Ultimately, meaning there's kill the animal. Once you kill the animal, pretty much again, the animal is yours, right? I mean, it was yours beforehand also. But the idea is remove us another step. Chasr dal rivan. The next year they paid another 40,000. Shemak rivan osa kol ikr. Not to offer it at all. So they gave the animal plus another 40,000. And do me a favor, don't offer it at all. My timer. So I'll say, what's the concern over here? Lav mishum dilma asir l'shayye. We'll say, what's the issue over here? The issue is they were concerned that they may come to maintain the animal. But we'll say, using that logic, the fact that they won't offer it today, but rather tomorrow, what's the logic? Ella, Rebbe me'akar milsaboy, v'savar ye'akar v'asi porta porta. We'll say, Rebbe's logic was, he knew that his goal ultimately was to get out of giving this animal altogether. But he knew also, we'll say, it's a strategy. There's sometimes in life you can't affect change all at once. There's sometimes change has to be affected incrementally, slowly, and step after step. Therefore, Rebbe understood if he just tried to bribe him to get out of the whole thing altogether, it wouldn't work. But instead, he establishes a relationship, step by step. Ultimately, again, he gets himself out of the giving. He's supposed to pay a lot of money, but at least doesn't have the issue of Avodah Zara. So it says the Gemara, but 1 second. But even if he goes ahead and holds on to it, right? I will say ultimately again, but if they hold on to the animal, it could become healthy and it could do work. Look at Rashi. Tavkasa he kolomar ve'imashule mi bari suleme avin malacha the kabayis lemisrei. So it's Gemara. Amravashi amrli zvida bartura meshahinale va'avid al chad trin. So I'll say ultimately again. Interestingly enough, so Rav Ashi said, yes, if you take a fattened ox and you let it lose weight to the point where it's capable of going ahead and doing work, it could do the work of 2 oxen. And therefore, I will say, what the saying over here is that halach. So I will say, so bottom line, what's the halacha? So remember, I gave Machlokes Rabbi Yehuda and the Rabbanan about what to do with the shor shal patam. We'll say, do we say that at the end of the day, since at this time now when I sell it to the akum, it is not fit for work, therefore what? It's not the. Let me take a step back. Do we say that since it's not presently fit for work because it's too fat, it's only fit for consumption, therefore it does not fall under the prohibition, the rabbinic prohibition of selling a behema gasa to an akum? Or do we say that no, since it could lose weight and can become usable in the workforce, it still falls under the prohibition of selling a behema gasa to an akum? So we'll say, so bottom line, the Gemara Paskins, like the Havamina in Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira, that it is asr, that one cannot sell a shor shel patam to an akum, because it will say, even though presently now it is unfit for work, since if the akum holds onto it and it loses weight, it can once again become fit for work. Therefore, it falls under the prohibition of behema gasa, and one may not sell the shor shel patam to the oved kochavim. Says the Mishnah. Ve'mocher lahem. We'll say next case. We still have to come back if we have time. Maybe by the end of this year, we do have to close out the sugya of behema gasa by an akum, because they're both say this is an interesting question today. So what does this mean? I can't. Is this the halacha on the books that I can't sell a behema gasa to an akum? Right? There are plenty of Jews who deal in livestock. Right? Does this mean at the end of the day, again, I'm limited to the Jewish market? So again, there's a whole Shulchan Aruch on it. If we have time by the end of the daf, I'll come back to it. If not, we'll find time to come back to this. It says the Mishnah. We'll say next case. I'm mocher lahem dubin va'arayos. We'll say one can't sell bears and lions to an akum. V'chol davar sheyish bo nezek l'rabim. Or for that matter, anything that has danger to the general populace, one can't sell to the akum. A bonin iman basilki. We'll say you can't build a basila with them. That was, and interestingly enough, as we'll see with these type of structures, Rashi says over here, basilki loshon tira gavoa. Could we say the yuma lishkas agazes kivim basilki gedola haisav sham dana bnei adam pilin osomes. So we'll say this basila, which was like a high towered structure, this is where the akum's court would meet. Now, interestingly enough, if you were found guilty, so again, they would throw you out the window. So the idea over here was a tall structure, very, very what's the word? Efficient, thank you. Very efficient. So we'll say, so again, a Jew is not permitted to go ahead and help an akum build these structures. So basilki, gardum, we'll say, gardum is the same idea. These were structures, tall structures, which they used to judge dinei nefashos, capital cases. It's stadia, so we'll say it's stadia again, is, we'll see, it's stadia is, Rashi says, makom she'osin sham, it's stadonis, shar, kimo shar, it's stadonim, and agech organashav schoklam, stadiums where they used to have bullfights. So you can't build for them stadiums to have the bullfights. Ubima, and I will say again, we'll see what the bima is exactly. And the Gemara Rashi says, so the bima was a platform also which they would push people off in order to die. Avabonin imoyen bimasos or bimosios. I will say you could build for them bimosios. I will say bimosios. Rashi sounds like over here is an altar. But Rashi also points out that it is an altar that was not used for Avodah Zara. So we'll discuss in the Gemara exactly what it is. Or beis merchatzos. You can also build with them bathhouses. Higia l'kipa, but interestingly enough, when you get to the dome, so apparently the way they used to build bathhouses was there was a dome on top of the bathhouse. Shema'amidin ba'avodas kochavim. Now, both say on the dome of the bathhouse, they would often put a statue of Avodah Zara. Both say, what statue of Avodah Zara were they putting on the bathhouse? Amazing. Look at Rashi. Kippah. It's in the wide lines of Rashi. I'll say about 5 lines in. Good morning, Mr. Schoenfeld. So Kippah, Rashi says, Derech ovdei kochavim lahamid demus Aphrodite. The base Hamerchat Shalahan. Interestingly enough, they used to put a statue of the Greek goddess Aphrodite, right, the goddess of love. Right, they would go ahead and they would put a statue of Aphrodite on the dome of their Beis Hamerchatz. So therefore, again, the Gemara says the Jew could help construct the Beis Hamerchatz, but once they get to the dome, the Jew has to withdraw from helping to build that. So the Gemara says, Asher Livnos. Gemara. Amrav Chanan Barav Chistava. Amrav Chanan Barava. Amrav Chaya Gasa. Supposed to listen to this. Now, up until now, we're speaking about a behema gasa. Now we're talking about a chaya gasa. We'll say, what's a chaya gasa? A chaya gasa is a large, non-domesticated animal. So, what is the status of the sale of a chaya gasa to an akum? So, we'll say, before we get to that, the Gemara says, chaya gasa, harehi ke behema daka lepirkus. Well, this is actually an interesting discussion. Take a look at Rashi just a moment. Ke behema daka lepirkus, a little bit of background. Ki do amar behema mesukenes, b'shchitas chulin, behema daka shapashta yada achar shchitasav lo echzira asura. The behema mesukenesi, ve'inu muteres ashtibar. So we'll say, the Gemara will discuss the following case. Let's get a behema that's mesukenes, which means an animal that is actively dying in a life-threatening situation. So we'll say, so the question becomes, if you shech that animal, how can you be sure that the animal died as a result of shchita and not immediately beforehand? So the Gemara says, if the animal has pirkus, we'll say pirkus means that the animal's body moves after the shchita, right? The spasm, right? If the animal has the muscle spasms after the shchita, then by definition, again, it means the animal died as a result of the shchita and not beforehand. So the Gemara says the following: the pirkus depends on a behema daka versus a behema gasa. A behema daka, both said the pirkus is that it extends the limb and brings the limb back. By a behema gasa, all you need is the extension of the limb. It doesn't have to bring the limb back. So the Gemara says chaya gasa. Back to the Gemara. Chaya gasa hari ke behema daka. So we'll say a large non-domesticated animal, a large chaya, is like a behema daka lepirkus, which means that it only requires an extension of the limb, but does not go ahead and require a bringing back of the limb. Aval lo lemechira. Rabbi say not for purposes of a sale. Rabbi say, what does that mean? So Rav says that a chaya gas is like a behema daka for pirkos, but not for mechira. Look at Rashi. Levalo lemechira lemisli b'minhaga ela ke behema gasehi. So we'll say, here's the sheet of Rav. What's important for us for today? Rav says a chaya gasa is like a behema gasa, which means what? The same way you can't sell to an akum a behema gasa, you also can't sell a chaya gasa. I will say, so just the simplest example of a chaya gasa is a deer. Deer is a simple, right? Deer is a chaya because deer is a non-domesticated animal. So by definition, again, what it's saying is you can't sell a deer to an akum the same way you can't sell a cow to an akum. A cow is a behema gasa, the deer will be a behema gasa. So we'll say this is shita of Rab. I'm sorry? Chaya gasa, sorry. Thank you. So the cow is a behema gasa, the deer is a chaya gasa. The same way you can't sell a behema gasa. Rav says you can't sell a chaya gasa as well. I'll look at it, fine. So says the Gemara. Aval lemechira. Va'ani omer, and I say, af lemechira. I say ultimately, like af lemechira, makom shenagu limkar mochrin, shalom limkar ein mochrin. So we'll say, and I say, this is Rav Chanan bar Rav Chista. So we'll say, ultimately says, and I say that halacha l'meis again, it depends on what? Minhag hamakom. The status of chaya gasa depends on every, so again, not behema gasa we dealt with. The status of chaya gasa, we'll say, seems to be subject to machlokes. One opinion saying that chaya gasa is like behema gasa. Second opinion saying that chaya gasa is dependent on minhag hamakom. Tnan, ein mochel and dubin va'arayos. you can't sell to an akum bears and lions. And I will say, as well as anything that's what? Anything that has the potential for it to damage the public. So the Gemara says, Taima di'isbe nezek l'rabim. The reason you can't sell these other types of animals, Rabbi say, is why? Because they present a danger to the general populace. Ha less bein nezek l'rabim. Rabbi say, so it would appear that what? If there was no danger to the general populace, then shari. So we'll say, so remember again, a bear and the lion are examples of what Rabbi say, of chayos gasos, right? Chayos gasos. These are large, non-domesticated animals. So it seems to be the reason I can't sell them to an akum is because of the danger they pose, not because they would fall under the same general category of a behema gasa. Amar Rabbi Bar Ula ba'arish shavar. No, it sounds like the Mishnah is talking about. We'll say what? And arish shavar. We'll say arish shavar means that ultimately, again, a lion that would even be incapable of doing any kind of work. Rashi says, Va'aliba Amud Beis, Va'aliba Rabbi Yehuda. So we'll say, and this would be in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda, remember what Rabbi Yehuda said in the previous Mishnah? Rabbi Yehuda said that what? That you could sell a behema gasa that shavar to an akum, right? Remember again, Rabbi Yehuda holds that if the behema gasa can't go ahead and do any kind of work, then by definition one is permitted to go ahead and sell that behema gasa. Therefore, it could be that the Ari we're talking about over here in the Mishnah is also an Ari that's incapable of doing any kind of work. And therefore, again, the only issue at play is whether or not the lion poses a public danger. Because if not for the public danger perspective, then even if you treat the chaya gas like a behema gas, it would still be permitted to sell to the akum. Rav Ashi Amar, stam ari shavur eitzum malacha. Let's say Rav Ashi says, when was the last time you saw a lion do anything for anyone? In other words, that a lion, I will say, is never considered to be like a work animal. Meaning a lion is not in that parsha. Every lion is considered to be like broken when it comes to work. So the Gemara says, Meisvei, the Gemara is a kasha, the same way that you can't sell an akum a behema gasa, kach ein mochron lehem chaya gasa. But I so too you can't sell an akum a chaya gasa. So we'll say this seems to be quite explicit. Vafilu b'makom shemochron lehem behema daka. And we'll say even in a place where the minhag is to sell to the akum a behema daka. Remember again, we established in the last sugya that the sale of a behema daka is fundamentally dependent on what? Minhag hamakom. So even in a place where they sell to the akum behema daka, chaya gasa in mochron lahen. Ultimately, again, you cannot sell a chaya gasa to yufta de Rav Chanan Barava to yufta. Rabbi say this indeed refutes the position of Rav Chanan Barava, who said that you can sell a chaya gasa, and indeed this is a refutation. So we'll say, so bottom line, it seems to be the Gemara is saying that a chaya gasa is treated like a behema gasa, and one is not permitted to sell to the akum. Ravina, Rami Masnisin Abraisa Mishani. We'll say, so Ravina contrasted the Mishnah with the Braisa, and he explained it. Tanan, in Mochor Lahem Dubin Va'arayas. You can't sell to the akum bears and lions. V'lo kol davar sheyesh nezek l'rabim. Nor can you sell to the akum anything that poses a danger to the general populace. Taima de isbei nezek. The reason you can't sell this is because it poses a danger. Ha less bein nezek mochrin. They will say if there is no nezek, where there not to be any kind of danger, you would be able to sell it. So the Gemara says, or mini, but let's raise a kasha. Kishem shein mochrin behema gasa. The same way you can't sell a behema gasa, kach in mochrin chaya gasa. And we'll say, so too you can't sell a chaya gasa as well. Va'afilu b'makom shemochrin behema daka. And even in a place where the minhag gets to sell a behema daka, chaya gasa in mochrin. Ultimately, again, you cannot sell a chaya gasa. So we'll say, what you see over here is as follows. Here's the tension. The tension is why. The interesting part is it seems to be that bottom line is you can't sell a chaya gasa. The shaila is why. From the first source, so say it appears that the reason you can't sell a chaya gasa is because a chaya gasa is the equivalent to what? To a behema gasa. That seems to be the logic over here. The same way I can't sell a behema gasa, I also can't sell a chaya gasa. I will say, but using that logic, if they're grouped together, that would seem to be that the issue is because of work. According to the second source, the issue is the public danger that chaya gasa poses. And because of that, if there were to be no danger element, then what? Then it would appear that the sale would be permitted. So we'll say, so which one is it? Umeshani, and we explain, Ba'ari Shavor, Va'alib Rabbi Yehuda. We'll say could be that the Mishnah is talking about a case of an arishar. We'll say so arishar means a broken line, meaning a line which is incapable of doing work. And according to Rabbi Yehuda, we'll say remember again, Rabbi Yehuda is the one who says that you could sell a behema gasa to an akum when what? When the animal is incapable of labor. So too again you could sell a chaya gasa to an akum when the animal is incapable of labor. Ravashi says, Stam Ari Shavar who eats a malacha. And Ravashi says again, a regular lion of Bosai is always considered to be broken because lions are not generally beasts of labor. To which the more Samaskar of Nachman, Manli Malan da Ari Chayagasihi. How do you know that a lion falls into the category of a Chayagasa? Dilma Chayadakahi. I will say ultimately again, maybe it's considered to be in the category of a Chayadaka. Ravashi Daik Masnis, Mosif Tiyufta. So we'll say ultimately again, Ravashi made a diak in the Mishnah, and ultimately again he brings an answer. Tanan, a mocher lehen dubin va'arayas. We'll say he can't sell to the akum bears and lions. V'lo kol davar sheish bo nezek l'rabbin. Nor can you sell anything which poses a danger to the rabbin. Taima de ispei nezek. The reason you can't sell it is because it poses a danger. Hales bei nezek mochrin. We'll say ultimately again, if there is no danger, you can sell it. The taima ari, and the reason the lion is because the stam ari who shavar eitzel malacha is because the side. The reason why you bring down the danger component by an ari, Rabbi says why? Because the labor component doesn't apply to a lion. That's not the issue with a lion that you're going to come to work it on Shabbos. That reason doesn't apply because the lion is not the type of animal that does work on behalf of man. The issue with the lion is one ultimately again of danger. So the Gemara says, "Aval midi achrini de avid melacha lo." But I will say ultimately again, another type of chayagasa which could do malacha rabosai would fall under the same category of prohibited sale, the same way that a behima gasa would. Tiyufta d'Rav Chanan barava tiyufta. Ultimately, again, Abba said, therefore we say it's refutation of Rav Chanan barava. So we'll say, remember again, Rav Chanan barava was the one who wanted to say there's a distinction between a chayagasa and a behima gasa. Abba say, bottom line is, at the end of the day, they are grouped together. And the same way, one can't sell a behima gasa to an akum, one can't sell a chayagasa to an akum. We'll say the only reason why lion is singled out is because lion is ultimately again the type of animal that it doesn't pose a concern on its labor because every lion is shavor itzel malachto, is malach. It's considered to be broken when it comes to labor because the lion is not going to do work for an individual. The issue with the lion, the sale of the lion I should say, is the danger that it poses to the general populace. The chayagasa, mias my malacha avda. We'll say what's an example of a type of malacha that a chayagasa would perform? Amrabai Amrli Mar Yehuda debate Mar Yuchni Tachni Rechayim Ba'arudi. We'll say just to give you an example that in the house of Mar Yuchni they would use arudi. We'll say arudi are wild donkeys. So a wild donkey is considered to be a chaya, and yet they were able to somehow domesticate them to the point that they were able to go ahead and work the grinding wheel in the mill. So okay, that's an example of work that a chaya could do. Amar Rabbi Zara. Ki avinan be Rabbi Yehuda Amarlan. So Rabbi Zera said the following: when we were in the yeshiva or in the house of Rabbi Yehuda, Amarlan he said to us, "Gemiru minoi hai milsa demegaver Rabbi Shmuel." So Rabbi Yehuda was saying to Rabbi Zera, "So I want to teach you something that I heard from a great man. But here's the problem: V'lo yidano imi Rav imi Shmuel." I don't remember who I heard it from. We'll say that Rabbi Yehuda was a Talmud of both Rav and Shmuel. So Rabbi Yehuda says to Rabbi Zera, I want to tell you an important teaching that I learned from one of my Rebbeim. I just don't remember which Rebbe it was. I don't remember if it was Rav or Shmuel. What did I learn from them? Chayagasa harehi kebehema daka lepirkos. The halach I learned from them is that a chayagasa, I will say a large non-domesticated animal, is considered to be like a behema daka, a small animal, vapirkos. Also, which is, as we said before, that the same way if you have a behema daka, which is misukenes, deathly ill, and you shecht it, and you want to be sure that it died of shchita, it requires pirkos. But I will say the pirkos will be the extending of the limb and then bringing back of the limb. So to a chayagasa, I will say, has the same din of pirkos if it is a misukenes, like a behema daka. Kiasoi likurkunya. When I came to, so this is Rabbi Zera talking. When I came to Kurkunya, Ashkechasi l'Rav bar Ashi, Yosef v'Kamar Mishmei de Shmuel. I heard him giving over in the name of Shmuel. Chayagasa harehi kebehema daka lepirkus. Oh, so when I went to Kurkunya, I heard of Chia bar Ashi giving over this ruling in the name of Shmuel. Now remember again, Rabbi Huda said it to Rabbi Zara. He said, I learned this from one of my Rebbeim, either Rav or Shmuel, and I don't remember who said it. Now Rabbi Zara goes to Kurkunya. He meets Rabbi Chia bar Ashi. Rabbi Chia bar Ashi is sitting giving shir, and he says over this same teaching in the name of Shmuel. So the Chayagasa Harike Behema Dakala Pirkos Amina Shmamina Mishmei de Shmuel Itmar. So Rabbi Zara says, oh, I see from here that what? That indeed this ruling was given over in the name of Shmuel. Yet, we're supposed to listen to this. Ki asay l'sura, when Rabbi Zera traveled to Surah, Ashkechasi l'Rabbi bar Yirmiyah diyasev v'kam le'mishmei d'Rav. I heard a shir by Rabbi bar Yirmiyah, and he gave over the name of Rab the following: Chayagasa harehi kebehema dakala pirkus. It was the same shir. Apparently, this was the popular topic. This was the popular topic. We'll say this is a very important halacha because remember, if you own animals and one of your animals becomes ill, we'll say it is in your best interest to what? To shech that as quickly as possible to be able to, because if it dies, then again, okay, you could sell it, but any smart Gentile is going to know that the Jew with an avela on his hands can't do all that much with it. He's usually going to get it at a discount. Your interest, so this halacha was an important halacha. So here he now travels, Rav Zera travels to Surah, and he hears the shir of Rabbi bar Yirmiyah, and he says it over in the name of Rav. As the Gemara says, Shmamina, Itmar Mishmei de Rav, Vitmar Mishmei de Shmuel. We'll say, so apparently again, Rabbi Yehuda was right on both accounts. Rabbi Yehuda couldn't remember who he heard it from, but the truth didn't really matter because both of Israel and both Rav and Shmuel both said this same halacha. Ki salikis lahasam. When I came there, Ashkechasi Ravasi, the Yosef Vikama. I heard Ravasi giving shir bosei. And what did Ravasi say in the shir? Vikama Amar Rav Chana bar Guri Mishmei Derav Chaya Gasa Harehi Kebehema Daka Lepirkos. So ultimately, again, I heard Rav Chana bar Guri say in the name of Rav that a Chaya Gasa is again like a Behema Daka for the purpose of Pirkos. Amri Lei, and I said to him, V'lo Savar Lo Mar Deman Mara Dishmaisisa. Rabbi bar Yirmiyah. So I said to him, Rabbi, do you not hold that also the one who said this particular ruling is also Rabbi bar Yirmiyah? So we'll say, if you look at Rashi says, Lo Saval Amar Tashmaisa Rabbi bar Yirmiyah Amar Mishmei Derav Ana Ashkechei B'Surya Diyasa V'Kam Le Mishmei Derav Alma Iu Kibla Minei Vat Amr Rav Chana bar Guria Kibla Mirav. So we'll say, so really Rabbi Zera was saying is, you're saying that Rav Chana bar Guria got it from Rav, but really the way I heard it was Rabbi bar Yirmiyah who got it from Rav. So we'll say, Rabbi Zera is just bringing up, we'll say, to us, we say, who cares? What does it matter? As long as you get the bottom line halacha. Because also remember, again, this is about preservation of the Masorah, of understanding who the Rebbe was, who the Talmud was, who's transmitting it. So Rabbi Zera just said, when I was in Surah, I heard that it was Rabbi bar Yirmiyah, ultimately who got it from Rav. You're teaching it as someone else who got it from Rav. Is that the correct Masorah? Amarle. So we'll say, so he said to Rabbi Zera, Pasyo Uchma. We'll say, so Pasyo Uchma means blackened vessel. We'll say, a blackened vessel, we'll say, is a compliment. Blackened vessel means the same way that when you would use an earthenware pot, it would get blackened from use. So sometimes a Talmid Chacham, ultimately, again, was called a blackened vessel. Because what happened? A Talmid Chacham sometimes could become so engrossed in his learning that he would forget to launder his clothing. So sometimes his clothes, which is not a good thing, but sometimes he would just get so engrossed, so his clothing would become a little bit blackened. So he said, you blackened vessel, you're so steeped in Torah, minay uminach tistayim shmaisa. You know what? Between you and me, we'll straighten this out. In other words, let's sit down together and let's straighten out exactly what the shalshalas hamasorah is. Who is saying what Rashi says? Minach uminach. I heard in the name of Rabbi Chama from Rav. You heard in the name of Rabbi bar Yirmiyah from Rav. Let's sit down and straighten this out together. So the Gemara says, Itmar nami Amar Zera Amar Ravasi Amar Rav bar Yirmiyah Amar Rav Chama bar Guria Amar Rav Chaya Gasari Kibehema Daka Lepirkos. So we'll say, finally they straightened out the transmission, and the transmission, as Rabbi Zera said, Ravasi said in Rav bar Yirmiyah, who's saying Rav Chama bar Guria, who's saying in the name of Rav, that a Chaya Gas is like a Behema Daka Lepirkos. So we'll say, bottom line, halacha l'maaseh, we emerge with two pieces of important information. Number one, that indeed a Chaya Gas is like a Behema Daka for Pirkos. Therefore, if you shecht a Chaya Gasa, a large non-domesticated animal that is a misukenes, that is deathly ill, and you shecht it, and you want to make sure that the animal died of shchita and not of its illness, it requires Pirkos like a behema daka, which means it must extend the limb and bring back the limb. Only if it does that can you assume that it died of shchita. Otherwise, ultimately, again, you have to treat the animal as if it died prior to shchita. And we'll say halacha number 2 is that chaya gasa is treated like a behema gasa. And the same way that one cannot go ahead and sell a behema gasa to an akum, so too one cannot sell a chaya gasa to an akum as well. So we'll say, so that bottom line. So we'll stop over here. Let me just use 2 minutes just to focus on the sale of behema gasa to an akum. So we'll say, listen to this, the Shulchan Aruch Paskins, this is in Yoredeya, Simin Kuf Nun Aleph Sif Dalet. Makom Shinago Shalim Kar Behema Daka, fine, of the Cham Emochim. So we'll say, so halacha number 1 is the sale of behema daka is all about minhag hamakom. All about minhag hamakom. If the minhag hamakom is not to sell a behema daka, then we don't sell a behema daka. The reason that Rabbi says, why is it dependent on minhag hamakom? Because you saw, what was the issue with the sale of a behema daka? What was the issue? The issue was bestiality. So we'll say, so again, all of that is dependent on the minhag hamakom. Ubechol makom ein mochen lahem v'lo v'Yisrael achasher limkor lahem behema gasa. We'll say, in any place, one is not permitted to sell a behema gasa to an akum. Furthermore, one is not permitted to sell a behema gasa to a Jew who is known to sell animals to an akum, like we saw by the case of Rabba. We'll say, the one easy way to avoid this whole issue is you could sell your animals to a broker. If you sell your animals to a broker, you're done. Once you sell to a broker, you are removed from the situation, no longer have any involvement. And we'll say, v'achshav nagu heter bakol. However, look what the Shulchan Aruch says. But nowadays, we're matir, right? We sell behema gasas to akums as well. So we'll say, so what changed? Okay, I don't have time to do this justice, but I'll just tell you something very interesting. So we'll say, what changed is the shach. The shach says, Lefi shebiyameim hayudarim harbe Yehudim biyachad vayu yicholim limkar zelazeh. We'll say, in times of the Gemara, Jews lived in large, dense communities, and therefore were able to live based on commerce between one another. So Chazal instituted, don't go ahead and sell a behema gasa to a Gentile, because again, you could live on the commerce within the Jewish community. However, aval ha'idna shema'at Yehudim darim makom echad v'lo mezabni ika pseida. We'll say, but contemporarily says the Shach, where Jews do not necessarily live in such dense Jewish communities, we cannot live just simply selling livestock to one another. Therefore, again, the prohibition is lifted, and one could sell a behema gasa to an akum. So I'll say, so again, there's much more to say about this, but bottom line, you see again, behema daka is dependent on minhag hamakom. Shulchan Aruch seems to say unequivocally, one can't sell a behema gasa to an akum or to a Jew who is known to sell an akum. B'yet lashon is v'ha'achshav nagu heter bakol. Says essentially the shach, you know why? Because it became a gzira she'ein hatzibor yachol la'amod. It became a rabbinic decree which just imposed too much of a hardship upon the general Jewish populace, and therefore, again, in order to live, in order to make up parnasa, Chazal permitted the sale of the behema gasa even to an akum. Right, so we'll stop over here for today. There's much more to say on that sugya. We'll follow up with it.